evening and welcome to Restoration Talks. We are so glad you decided to join with us again this week. This week we are looking at a really sensitive subject. We're beginning to look at Restoration Talks, prostate cancer. As we know, prostate cancer is really affecting our black men in the community, with 1 in 4 black males being diagnosed with prostate cancer. So this week we're going to have a quick chat with our brother Cleveland and our pastor Delroy, who both have different experiences with going to get tested and having different diagnoses. And we're going to really look into this subject to encourage more of our black males, our black men in our families, our uncles, our brothers, our nephews, to go and get checked out. So I'm going to welcome Brother Cleveland. Welcome back.
Hello.
A regular visitor. Brother Cleveland joined us a couple of weeks ago for the fatherhood talk as well. So we're really grateful that you've come back again. And if you could just tell us a little bit about your journey with going to get checked with prostate cancer.
Okay, well, with me it started with, in the night time, as you do, you go to the toilet, which is a regular thing. And usually if you have the same times that you get up, your body will naturally get you up certain time during the night. Mine was always 3 o'clock. So I get up 3 o'clock, it's 3 o'clock in, I don't know why I'm up, I need to go to the toilet. That was normal. And then as the weeks were going by, I was getting up a couple more times, and I thought, okay, I look at the time, it's not my 3 o'clock time, it's a different time. So you get this, you go into the situation where you start to analyse a thing a bit more, because it was very much in the news at the time, because I watched TalkSport, and you hear them talking about cancer, prostate cancer, and men and all this sort of stuff. Lots of advertising going on. And I had a friend who was going through actually cancer treatment also at the time. So I thought, you know what, time to have that check. I know how old I am, over 50, black male, so I knew the statistics. And I thought, I have to go and have that check. So I went to my own doctor first, and then you have the internal examination to see if there's anything that they can tell. And the doctor said, it was a female doctor, said, it's slightly strange, your prostate. And I went, okay. I didn't expect them to say anything. I thought they were going to just do the test, and then I'd be out of there, and then I can just put that in a drawer for another day. But she says, okay, just to be on the safe side. It was those words. I said, yeah. And then you want to ask more and more questions. You want to try and get reassurance from them to say, you haven't found anything really, though, have you? But it was like, yeah, something doesn't feel quite right. And I was like, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to book you in with this specialist. Now you brought in the word specialist. Now you're not calming me down at all, because I'm not sure how trained doctors are in those terms, but now I'm thinking, okay, let's just take this as a process. All right, just give me the date. She says, all right, they'll be in contact with you, and they'll be in contact with you quite quickly. I thought, now you're using the word quickly. You use specialist, you use quickly, you've moved things on so quick. I thought, remember, I've come from just off the street to come and just go, let me just go and get this done. Suddenly I'm in this process. Wow. And 2 days it took them to contact me. Wow. Straight in there, and it was like, yeah, come in for this. Your doctor sent us some information, and they said that they found something slightly wrong with your examination, internal examination, and you've also mentioned that you've gone to the toilet a few more times, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. So I didn't mention this to anybody. I thought, at this point, there's no diagnosis to mention. So I was like, I didn't want to think about it, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. So it's only when I went to the doctors and they took a blood sample. What they didn't tell me to, is they told me you're going to have a PSA test. So that's another test you get to check what your PSA level is, because it's a bit of an indicator, but you have to wait for a couple of weeks before you can take it, and they tell you don't have any sexual activity during that time. Now I thought, okay, I understand all that. What they didn't tell me was it wasn't the having sexual activity, and if you don't do anything vigorous, so sports, all that stuff. But I was training up until that point, so I wasn't given any of that enough knowledge. So I was doing lots of exercise and things like that, and so I had my test. And when my test came back, my test was slightly elevated. So when they started joining ducts up, it was a bit elevated as well. Then it says, right, we're going to send you for another load of tests. What? What's this now? So they explained the CRT test. It was a test where they put something inside of you, and they can see, when they do a scan, they can see things a bit more clearly. So it was like test after test after test. And I was thinking, and now at this point, I'm thinking, do I say something to somebody? I think I told Pastor that I'm going through a series of testing because, I'm part of the worship team at the time. I was thinking, well, I need to step back. You have to be smart and say, right, I need to work certain things through. And I told my wife, but I said, don't say anything to the kids yet because there's nothing to tell them. And I don't want them unduly worried because you start thinking about everybody else. But the weirdest thing was, for me, was the weirdest sensation was I just felt, that word, discombobulated. I'd never used that word before. That's the only time I've known that word to be useful. And you've seen that adverts where you plunge into water? It felt like that. I didn't feel like I was drowning, but I didn't feel like I was breathing either. It was like, I wasn't part of conversation. So if I was sitting at home and people were talking or in a group, I didn't feel like I was part of the conversation, even though I was in the conversation. My mind was here, and my body was just sitting there. My mind was looking back at my body, like we were two different people. And I was like, I'm trying to shake out of this, but it's very, very difficult to do that. So that was the diagnosis. One night when I heard that, waiting for the diagnosis.
Wow. I really like the way how you've kind of walked us through that journey and kind of shared quite openly. Even we were saying we were gonna, explore the feelings and stuff, but you were able to kind of articulate that so well in terms of being discombobulated. And I can kind of see how those feelings can arise during that time when you're just waiting on results and the anxiety of what's happening. And Pastor D, Dad, what was your journey through, what influenced you to go and get checked as well?
There was two things really. The first one was, it was time for my annual checkup because I had a prostate checked 2 years previously, and that was fine. And I was due for an annual full body checkup, which was this time last year. But what I found was in 2019, I was trying to do some training to lose weight. And so part of my workplace, we had a gym, and so I was attending the gym and I was trying to exercise, but constantly was in a lot of pain. And I knew something wasn't right with my body, but I didn't know what it was. And I actually thought that I may have a hernia. So when I went to the doctor to get my full check, I asked them if they can check if I have a hernia. And in checking, both doctors I was at, the first doctor was checking me, and she said, it feels like I think you have got a hernia. I will go and get another doctor to get a second opinion. And the second doctor came and also confirmed you have a hernia, but we need to run further checks and further tests. And so they run further check and tests, so I had to go and get a scan done, etc. And the result came back and everything was fine, so it wasn't a hernia. So just with the discussion with my family and with my wife, and also there was a particular gentleman in the gym that I was telling him about that I'm struggling in terms of training, and he said they'll go and get checked out just in case. So I said to the doctor while I was there, could you just check me just in case? Just do a check while I'm here for prostate cancer. And she said, yeah, fine, but I'll get another doctor to do that. And they done an internal examination, and no real big problem. And they just said, we just need to do an injection, check your blood levels for the PSA, and we'll let you know. And then it came back that the PSA level was very high. and so we need to escalate that to the next level, and we now need to take it further. Further investigation needs to take place. So that's how my one was a case of, again, Senator Cleveland, over 50 years old, black male, and because I've already checked before and I was fine, but I know this is something that with my daughter and with my wife, they were pressing saying, Dad, you need to go and get checked. And so I was getting that constantly, Dad, go and get checked, Dad, go and get checked. And so, because sometimes with us being men, we're a bit reluctant, but to have that push of saying go and get checked forced me to, not forced me, but it really encouraged me to go and take it to the next level.
Just touching on that, what do we think the reluctancy with black men going to get checked out is all about?
I think there's just a reluctance to have some sort of answers. Sometimes you think, sometimes not knowing stuff, you feel like I can deal with. I don't know certain things are going to happen, and then you start hearing more stories, because it's like one of those things where, you know, when there's a certain car you like and you never noticed that car before, but as soon as you like it, you see loads of them. It's like that. You never hear about, you know, people doing it, then you hear one story and you think, actually, I keep hearing this is so common amongst people I know. And then so I thought I just have to go and get checked, you know. But I have to say I was reluctant at first because I felt healthy. And that's the thing about it. It's one of those things, diseases, where you can be healthy for quite a long time and not know. So if you've been trained in, you feel healthy, you feel strong, you feel fit, it's not one of those things you see as urgent. It's only the symptom of going to the bathroom a lot. But then I was thinking, that's just your head. That's you making yourself go to the toilet. So I was fighting that thought the whole time. And then I just thought, no, you know what? I'm just going to go. Got a bit of time. Why not?
In speaking with the guys, especially at my gym, speaking to some of the guys about it, one of the key things that was coming up was, number one, they thought that the when you're going to be checked was quite invasive, and that's what they didn't like. And the information of what they had to go through, is it painful? So when you say no, for me it was just an injection, and yes, a quick check, but it wasn't really bad. And I think that's the initial part. The hurdle is that people think that it's going to be really, really invasive and very embarrassing, and that's why for some it's like, I'd rather not know. I think I'm alright, and that's the danger.
And I think you're right. In terms of the actual procedure, what they first do, that was kind of, yeah, you sort of like just block it out of your mind, it's going to be done. But I know when they start talking about having like a camera inspection, because I know that can be, you know, it's uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. So there's no hiding that sort of side of it. The people tell you, don't worry about it. It's you won't feel it. You will feel it, but it had to be done, you know. And I had an additional issue. I've got a condition called diverticulosis. It's where the inside of your colon has lots of shapes coming out of it. So it can be painful if something is trying to pass up through there. So that's why when I had my inspection, I remember waking up during it, and I thought, wow. And then I remember just going falling asleep again. I heard them wake up and go, it's almost like I could hear them sort of panic a little bit, and then put me to sleep again. And I think that's when when I came to, they said, yeah, we had to give you quite a bit of dosage of drugs to keep you down, but it's because of your diverticulosis why we think that you experience that extra bit of pain.
Just to add to that, I don't think when people firstly go, it's not going to be that invasive, because it's only if they've seen something, then it goes to the next level.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
The first initial check is just a blood check and a quick examination.
Yep.
That's going to be the first stage, and then if they feel that they need to take it to the next level.
Yeah, definitely.
Then
Yeah.
it's to the next level. The initial is just a blood check, which
Yeah, it's not
It's
painful.
manageable.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, so what I'm hearing from both of you at this moment is about the vulnerability and about uncertainty, and that sometimes that's one of the things that might impact somebody coming forward, even having such a check in the first place. Because there is something about wanting to be able to, we all like to be able to control things, be able to manage things, to know what things are going to look like and what the outcome's going to be. And what I'm hearing is that when we're going into something like this, there is a vulnerability in, exposing ourselves or feeling exposed, and also in the uncertainty of, I heard Cleve, what you were saying about, knowing what to do. Once you're waiting for these results to come through, and the uncertainty of sitting with that as well. But what is really great to hear is that both of you said actually the initial stages aren't so invasive as we might believe they are. And yes, it is a vulnerable time, it's always an anxious time going for any sort of test. But I'm also really hearing as well the importance of being able to engage with that and being able to even sit with that uncertainty. And it also sounds like what was really important was being able to reach out to somebody. So, Pastor, you mentioned having the encouragement from your family. Although initially it sounds like you did this on your own, but you were able to open up to the pastor and open up to your wife as well for support. So it seems as though those are key things as well when we're facing that vulnerable and uncertain time, that we have some sort of support while we're going through that.
Absolutely. And just walking through the later parts of your journey, Cleve, with how you got to the ending part, what was the diagnosis, how did that come about, and the feelings during that time?
Yeah, it seemed like to take forever. It wasn't actually that long, but it was a series of weeks because they were giving me tests after tests. And because I had that other condition, that was confusing them because when they were scanning me, they were seeing other things going on. So they were wondering whether, is this a spread? Is there a different situation that they're dealing with? So when they send me my results, because they send you copies of your results, and they had something called at the time Duck Post. It's like an email deposit where you open up so you can get information to you quickly, but it's confidential. So you open up, you get another letter, and what's this letter about? And literally, it was like letters were coming through the letterbox, day after day, about this examination. Why is there so many letters? And then phone calls, right? Okay, it was like they had a real sense of urgency. You could feel it. I was trying to take my sense of urgency down, but I couldn't because there was another letter describing what we needed you to do and how we needed you to prepare for this next examination and when it's going to be, and we need you to get in contact and stay in contact. And but there was nothing about counselling. Along this way, there's nothing about counselling. This is all about a hospital treating you and getting you to where they needed you to be. So it was you almost had to deal with a few things on your own. That's what it felt like. So when they finally did the last battery of tests, and I was sitting in the hospital not far from here, and I was in the waiting room looking at the doctor's name on his door, and I was sitting there seeing other people come by, and you go through one, I wonder if they're coming in for prostate. I wonder what they're doing here. I wonder what their situation is. Because at the same time, I still felt healthy. That's the strange thing. I feel very, very healthy, but I realised what kind of thing prostate cancer is, and I knew that you could feel healthy and still something be going on inside of you. So when I finally had my last battery of tests, and then the doctor says to come in, you don't know what's going to happen from that conversation. But they didn't tell me to bring anyone with me, and you're looking for positives the whole way, but they didn't ask for that. And they didn't ask for this, and they didn't ask for that. You're trying to find your own positives everywhere, in every part of that situation. So I think I told a couple of people that I was going in and said, this is right, we're going to pray for you, and all that on the situation. And then I thought, don't tell the children, but Colette knew I was going in. And so she says, let me know when you get in there. So I went in there, sat with the doctor, and you want the doctor just to get to it. You're gonna say it, just say it. You know, don't beat around the bush. Don't take me here, there, everywhere. Don't sugarcoat it, don't nothing. Just tell me straight away. But doctors go through their process. So, Mr. Touche, how are you doing? This is not a conversation I want to be having. You know, push the paper back, do what you need to do, say what you need to say. And so they said, how you be feeling, blah, blah, blah. And he says, right, so we've looked at your scan, and we've had the team of doctors, because this goes to a whole team of people, and we've been, they took a sample of my prostate as well. So we said, we've had your sample, we've had your scans, we've had your blood tests, we've had this and that, and we've had a big discussion about it. One of the doctors wanted me to go forward for another scan. I was like, another scan? But they said, in the end, they said they discussed it, and the main specialist says, I don't think there's a problem. I don't think you have a problem. I think what it is, you got the diverticulosis. So I'm going to talk to you about that afterwards. But your scan came, your sample came back normal. There was no issue. And I was like, you know, sure, I can deal with diverticulosis. I had that sort of like relief and drain. I was thinking, just sit up on a chair. And then he started talking about the diverticulosis. But I was thinking, I'm not even really listening to you at this point. Yeah. I've just clinged onto that one thing at the moment, at that point, and I'm in my head thanking God, thinking, oh God, thank you, because as pastors always tell us, we are not exempt from trials and troubles. So I was prepared to hear the other side of it as well. You've got prostate cancer. Because I know that we've been prepared, so you are not exempt as a Christian from these struggles. So I know it's very possible you could have it. So I sat there, and then when he said you have it, I was like, oh, thank goodness for that. And I want to get out there. You know, you keep wanting to tell me about this other thing. You know, give me the paperwork. It's about changing your diet, doing this. Give me that. I need to get out of here. And so I got it, and I was sitting in the car thinking, oh man. And I thought, let me just message people now and tell them. Because I was excited with my news. I was so glad and so relieved. It was just a strange feeling of thinking, well, was I worked up for no reason? I thought, no, because psychologically that's going to hit you. Don't care who you think you are, psychologically you have that whole struggle. You know, you think about your family, how I'm going to break this to them. That's before I go into the room and looking at that, I'm thinking, well, if it comes out like that, what do I say? And I'll get myself really prepared for that situation, because you don't prepare for the good news, because good news, you just hate good news, don't you? You prepare yourself for bad news, and that's what was going in my head. So I was so relieved when I came out there, walking down the road. I wish I didn't drive. I wanted to just walk and keep walking home. You know, not drive. I wanted to take some time for myself. It's like I was suddenly back again. Now I could smell the air better. I could see everything now. I felt I was back in the conversation. You know, I could hear every sound around me again, where before it was just closed off to me. You know, I felt like I was back again in the room, present. So yeah, it was a strange time, really strange.
Can I just ask a question? Can we go back a little bit? You know, when you were saying that you were receiving all these emails and you were opening them up and everything, with more tests and everything that you had to do. At any point, did you look online to check these things out, to try and understand them?
Oh, I did my research. I think that's from when you get the first, oh, something doesn't feel right here. You hit the research, so you're in the internet going, let me check this out. What does it really mean? What does a PSA test really mean? What does it show you? And that's where you say, well, you understand it's inconclusive, the PSA test. It's just part of the battery of tests, which gives a bit of an indicator. So I was doing all this research. I knew some of the other stuff already because I've done the Men's March for Cancer, and we've had the leaflets before. So I understood quite a bit about prostate cancer. But yeah, I was reading all these sort of things. So what's the percent survival percentage? Because they have them for all the different types of cancer, and they talk about all this sort of stuff. So, and then I had to pull myself out of it. So I knew exactly what was happening. My mind was going into overtime. It was like, I need information now. I need to know about this. The spiritual side of me was trying to pull me back and saying, stop, stop, stop. And then that's why I say I had to reach for my weapons of my warfare and allow the doctors to do what the doctors had to do, specialists do what they had to do, everyone else do what you had to do. I had to reach for the weapons of my warfare, which were not carnal, as we know. I had to say, well, now I have to get on my knees. This is me now. It's when you're getting on your knees for somebody else is one thing, and sometimes we find that easy to do. When you're going to get on your knees for yourself and saying, well, and then at the same time you're saying to yourself, but I may not survive this. You ever sat down and says, I may not, because I don't know if I'm called now, that this is my time. This is my point, because that will go through your head, because you understand we all do have a point in time. So I was dealing with a lot of different things just wishing around my head, and I didn't want to get into conversation with Colette, because I'm thinking about you at the same time as I'm thinking about, oh yeah, wills, all this sort of stuff, you know, I've got to organise stuff, but I don't want to get into the mindset, I've got to have a victorious mindset at the same time. How do you do that? How do you deal with the reality and try to have a victorious mindset? You know, and spiritually, that's why I had to pull up. Yeah. It was really hard, but that's what I did. You know?
Oh, thank you so much for sharing your story. But did you want to?
No, I was just going to say that was a really important part as well to share, because I think it is about trying to get that balance, isn't it? It's about, you know, you're hearing this information, you want more information, you want to feel that you have, you know, the necessary information and support that you need in order to understand what's happening. And at the same time, there is obviously this fear in, am I looking into this too much? You know that when we look online, we're seeing lots of things that are very factual and important, but we also know that sometimes we're seeing extremes of different people's stories and experiences, and we're being exposed to things, and on the one hand it can be helpful and it can be edifying, and we know on the other hand that can just increase our anxieties and our you know, the tensions and even the questions that we may have. And what I'm really hearing is that you found yourself as well at a point where you were grappling with that, and that you realised that actually perhaps I was spending a bit too much time researching into this and I had to pull back a bit, which is where it's so important as well that we, you know, do discuss these things with our doctors and with those around that can support us, that can help us to keep in check as well, you know, so that we don't allow ourselves to become so consumed in what we might read or expose ourselves to. Because as you said, you know, once you see something, it's almost like everywhere you turn, you're seeing and you're hearing the same stories, you know, and we can almost allow this to run away with us, but at the same time we're aware that it is a reality that now all of a sudden before, where you weren't probably thinking about your health and thinking about wills and thinking about your children, all of a sudden your reality is that these are things you need to also consider. So I can really hear how difficult it was for you, and it was about finding balance at that time.
Absolutely, and like I said, thank you for sharing that with us. And Pastor, a slightly different journey, but can you just pick up from where you left off? So you've gone to get checked, and what were the later parts of your journey with going to get checked with prostate cancer?
Well, I knew that after we found out that it wasn't a hernia, and they had said the PSA level was high, and the way how it was communicated, my doctor was really good, because you know what she didn't want me to do was to worry. So I have a complete different journey from your one, because my journey was the doctor was extremely good to deal with any anxiety problems. That let us get the checks in and let's see first where we go from here. And I found the service to be really good. I found that the speed of the communication, the speed of the appointments was fantastic. That because I know that if it is going to be prostate cancer, time is of the essence. And what I saw was a priority in let's get this done as quick as possible, and let's get all the checks done. What helped me was having Caroline with me. She would not allow me to go on any of the appointments on my own, even though I said, no, I'll be fine. But she would not allow it. And having her there through the journey really helped. once the amazing thing is in the midst of that was when they were doing my examination to take the biopsy of the prostate, and the anaesthetist said, asked the same kind of questions you're asking today. What prompted me to go and get checked? When I explained to her that I was experiencing a lot of pain in my groins, which I couldn't work out why. One of the things she said was that prostate cancer doesn't cause pain in your groins. But for some reason, that was the key thing for me to go and get checked. And so for many men, it becomes even more dangerous because time is of the essence. If I didn't have had that pain, maybe I would not have gone and get checked, and that cancer would have been there and I would have been in a worse situation. The challenge really came was, for me, how I felt through the whole process was, okay, let's deal with this. Because of my previous experience of having been in a life and death situation, this was, I've had life-saving surgery and been through a difficult time before. This felt like nothing, because I was at the position before where I had only a matter of hours to live. And so having psychologically to deal with that, and me sitting in the hospital getting checked, was no comparison. Then when the news came, and I was really glad, my doctor didn't beat around the bush. It was a case of, you've got prostate cancer, and it was just direct. And it's like, okay, I've got that. I can only probably say the way I would look at myself going backwards, it was mainly what got me through that was kind of denial. Was it's happening, but I'm not registering any of it. I'm not connecting with any of it. So I basically went through the motions and not connecting feelings or anything. I know people was expecting me to fall to pieces, but it weren't happening. And I think people were looking, well, is he going to get emotional about it? But it was just like, it was nothing for me. And it was just like, at least I know now why I'm in pain, and it's going to get resolved. And then the next thing is, like what you said, is getting information. I need information of what's going to happen. The journey, one of the biggest things, if I just highlight the biggest things for me was the check-in to find out if the cancer has spread. That was, number one is getting the news, you have prostate cancer. That was like, okay. And then the second thing is we now need to check to find out if it's spread. That is where you take a deep breath. And having the results to come back, and I remember that anxiety sitting outside the room, and you see other people going inside and getting their results and coming back out. And I'm looking at Carolyn like, I just need this to get over and done with. And has it spread? And if so, how much of it spread? Because that could determine what's in terms of your life expectancy. And then the seriousness of it starts to creep up. This is now quite serious. And obviously, the conversation I had with my wife is how much information do we give to the family and the extended family? How much information do we give to the church? Because I didn't want to burden anyone down with it. I saw this as, okay, this is something I have to deal with, and let's deal with it. And so, yes, those were the two highlighted points that, okay, this hasn't spread. When they told me that it hasn't spread outside of the prostate, I was so relieved. But you always have in the back of your mind, what if I didn't get checked? What if I had just said, you know what, I pushed past the pain, I don't have to go to the gym, and it was 2 years later. And that's when you think on that level, it becomes it's a sobering thought of, it's so important to go and get checked. It's so important. But having my family, talking to my family, really did help in terms of keeping the anxiety where it is and speaking to others who have had this experience So for me, was speaking to my brother, who had the same experience. I spoke to yourself. I spoke to other people I know who had similar type of experiences. And then what I found was important for me to do was to go onto the prostate cancer support group. And that has been fantastic because I can hear and get advice from people who's on this journey or have been on this journey, and were able to give me really good advice.
Hello? Oh, yeah. So, well, thank you for both for sharing. And I think one of the things that we've picked up from both of you is just how important it was to get checked, how important it was to be able to speak about it and to gather more information as well on what has taken place, and also about that journey, that waiting journey, and the anxious wait of knowing what next and what it meant for both of you. You know, Brother Cleve, we've heard that for you, it was a matter of you didn't have it. And so we know that, you know, you were able to come away and be able to say, yes, you know, okay, we can move on from this. And we know, Pastor, that for you, you came out and it was, okay, I have got this thing. But thank God we know it hadn't spread any further. What was that journey like for both of you? What was it like? Because even though I know, Brother Cleve, you came out of it knowing I haven't got this, we know that was a shake-up. We know that, as you said, it had, you know, you were now thinking about things you hadn't perhaps considered before concerning your life, concerning your family, your health. What was that after period like, coming home? And, you know, was it a life adjustment? You know, did you feel better informed? You know, what is your experience after that process?
I think it was everything. Everything seemed to change. Like food tasted better. You know, you ate the food with a little bit of more enjoyment, and your priorities changed. You know, lots of things which didn't really matter definitely didn't matter. You know, there wasn't time for argument for me at the time. There wasn't no time for holding on to anything which wasn't precious to me. It just seemed like I was making adjustments. I was making adjustments in my life anyway, but this sort of really sort of accelerated it. It was a brutal reminder of your mortality. That's what it felt like. Got someone like that. It says, you know, if you think you got all the time in the world, then I'm telling you, you haven't. So that's what how I felt, and so I did start adjusting things in life and just saying, you know, and I found that my empathy levels really went up with, especially with people with prostate cancer or going through the same sort of thing. And I did need to tell everyone, you need to get checked. So I did tell friends afterwards and say, yeah, I was going through that. I did get checked. I didn't really tell you guys at the time because I didn't have a diagnosis. I would have told you had I had that diagnosis, but I didn't have a diagnosis to really share with you at the time. So it's kind of weird. Do I put you under that same pressure you're feeling for me at the time until I have anything concrete to share with you? I didn't have that. I just had this doubt going on, and I didn't want you to see me and give me that look of doubt. I've got that enough. If I can look at you and you can take my mind away from it because we're talking about other stuff, that's what I needed. I didn't need someone to look at me and give me that look what said, I know really what's happened. You know, I didn't need that. I didn't want that. And then with the kids, it was just so much. You're thinking, like, I want to see them grow up. You know, it was a reminder. I want to see what they turn into, you know, the adults they turn into. And all of that sort of stuff hits you. You think, wow, man, life is short, can be short. You know, so, you know, make sure you're treasuring it. Make sure you're doing the things that you really want to be doing. So when I see people grumpy, I think, really? You need to stop with that grumpiness and just try and enjoy yourself. Do the things that you need to do. Don't stay in situations that you really are dragging you down. if you went on this journey, it wake you out of those situations. It really does, you know. So some of the people who I know who have been diagnosed, that are friends of mine. So you hear them now when they speak, and when they know that you've been through that initial part of their journey, they can open up to you more and they talk to you more because you know what's going on in their heads at that point. So you form another little bit of a brotherhood going on, I think. That's what happens. We know we're with you. I get it. I see it. I know that you can't take on board everything while you're going through this sort of thing. So when I stepped back from the worship team, it was purpose because I couldn't stand up here. Not that I couldn't worship God, because I would worship God anyway, but I have to understand if God, you need to be dealing with this. People have to step forward and do what they're doing while you're dealing with what you need to deal with. You know, you're not Superman. You know, you rely on me, God. So you're not Superman. Sit down, go through your journey that I'm going to take you through. And I took it as that God was walking me through this journey, and I'm going to have to go through it. So that's the way I sort of pictured everything. I says, God's in control of this. I'm going to just let him walk through it. And whatever the outcome was, though, the big thing in my mind is my testimony is still going to be great. I remember Pastor D said something to me. He said, the church must not stop. And I went, I know what he's saying. I've been through this. I know what he's trying to tell me. You know, it could have gone, we could have swapped seats. I could be there, Pastor could be there in terms of this. So I knew when he said that, what he was saying. So it did make me emotional at the time, because I thought, oh man, I know where that could be going. So I have to make sure that that I listen to what he's saying, listen to his words, because where we were connecting deeper, you know, on a deeper level. So it was just tough, you know.
And for yourself, Pastor D? Going through, let's sort of go through that next phase now. So you found out that you've got prostate cancer, and now we're looking at the treatments. So operation, radiotherapy, chemotherapy. What was that process like in terms of working with the doctors to decide how we treat this?
This was a difficult one, because I went from being in denial to now having to face reality. And again, what I done was speak to those who had different types of operations or radiotherapy, because I needed to find out what would work for me. It was slightly frustrating because the doctors wouldn't be, when you ask them which one would be the best one, they still kind of put it back down to you. You have to make your own decision. And I just wanted someone to kind of say, do this, that would be the best one. And they wouldn't do that. And the problem that I had was one of a psychological nature. And that was because I've had 2 previous life-saving surgeries. It was, do I want to open up myself again psychologically to have a 3rd surgery, which is going to be extremely difficult? And so I found myself in the dilemma, asking my family, going backwards and forwards, and I just didn't feel that I was up to it psychologically to have the surgery. And so I opted for going for radiotherapy, which I thought would be the better option. And it wasn't until literally a day before the radiotherapy was to commence that I had one more check with the doctor. They called me in for one more check, and this time it was with a different doctor. And that doctor, when they looked through all the notes and looked through everything, said, why are you going for this option? Because I think everybody was saying, Delroy, you need to go for the surgery. But I just weren't sure. And even at work, I spoke to some of my colleagues at work, and they were saying, obviously take the surgery. But it was, when I was trying to explain, I don't know psychologically. I didn't want to open up that whole area again. because the last 2 times I had was quite traumatic, and I weren't sure if I can handle it and how is this going to affect me. And the surgery that was needed was something, it was a robotic surgery, and it was a new surgery, quite a pioneering one, because they couldn't operate the way they would standardly operate for prostate, which is from the front. So I had to do a different type of surgery, which was a specialist type of surgery. So that even add to the anxieties, like how am I going to deal with this? And then once I made that decision, I had to change and say, okay, I'm going to opt for the surgery. And I think I only broke down twice. I think that it was only twice I had a little bit of a meltdown, because it was like, I don't want to do surgery. I really don't want it. But in terms of the option, these are the only options I have available. And that is the best option given from the expert, and also speaking with my family as well. And those around, everyone was just, Delroy, you need to take the surgery, get it over and done with. So it was a case of now building myself up and going through the surgery. And what I had to do is just really pray and just put my mind in a place where it can be at peace, because I'm a person who really believes in peace. I really don't like having my mind troubled and all kinds of stuff. And so that was a challenge. I can't lie. It was a challenge facing up to the surgery, and then now having to go through a 7-hour surgery. But at the end of the day, this was about saving my life. And so it was a case of whatever I have to do, I've just got to do it. And just, again, it's just what really helps is having that support system around.
Could you just tell us, having had the surgery, what that was like for you? Because there will be some people that know exactly what you're talking about in terms of the psychological impact of going through surgery or of having this experience that you've had. Can you tell us, having come out the other end, what has it been like? What is it like, for you now psychologically?
Having the surgery was challenging. And it was a case, as I said before, of really just trying to get as much support as possible, and trying to get as much information to know what is going to take place. And so what I booked an appointment with the surgeon, and it was really good because he gave me such assurance that he is the best in this. And I read upon him, and he is one of the leading surgeons in regards to prostate. And that this is something that they perform. They do the surgery hundreds of times with such accuracy. And so I knew I was in safe hands. And the day before going into surgery, again, I have to say, having Caroline with me, my wife with me, really helped, because what she done was to help me know that I was not on my own, and that was really the key thing. And again, just having my family supporting me through this was the key thing. But the surgery itself was very difficult. It took 3 months. For me, it was 3 months of recovery. And because it was at the time when COVID-19 had kicked in as well. So I had my surgery on the 3rd of March this year, 3rd of March, and I had to be out of the hospital by the 5th of March because of COVID-19. They needed the beds. And so I had to vacate as quick as possible and do the recovery from home. And that was hard because it was, for me, because of the type of surgery which I was having, the process of healing was a lot longer. Most other surgeries, when you're doing the robotic surgery, is quite straightforward and it's very, very successful. But my one, because I couldn't have the same type of surgery because the risk was too high, I had to have this specialist surgery, and so therefore the recovery was much longer. and it was 3 months of quite hard pain. So I'm still going through it, and I'm just really coming out the other side now.
Thank you. And sort of going back a bit on the journey. So I remember last October, and we sat as a family, and I remember you saying to us that you're going to tell the church. And what I guess most people want to know is, what made you, as a pastor, want to share with the congregation that you were going through cancer and will be receiving treatment? And what was it like sharing that and coming to that decision?
Yeah, because I wanted the church to know that we are not exempt from issues. We're not exempt from problems. I needed the church to know that, because the church is your spiritual family. I appreciate not everyone's going to be able to understand your journey and understand it, but still you need to, I felt it's important to be honest with people so that the support is there and the understanding is there, because I knew I was going to take some time out. And so if they're looking and saying, well, where is Pastor? Well, I've got to deal with a serious issue at the moment, so I'm going to have to take a step back, step out the way, and this would also allow other people to step up and take that leading role whilst I go through this recovery. So it was important for when we're going through things, sometimes we try to keep it to ourselves because of the opinions of other people. But I wanted the church to know, yes, we do have challenges, and I will get through this. There's no question about it. I will get through this. Whether, I'm kicking, screaming, or crying, it doesn't make no difference. I'm going to get through it. And that is okay. And that's where you get the love, and that's where you get the support from your church family. And for those who don't have an immediate family that can give you support, your church family is there. And their prayers and their encouragement is something that is really valuable, especially when you're going through what we've experienced.
And both of you have shared the importance of reaching out to others. Pastor, you spoke about being a part of a prostate cancer group, and Brother Cleve, you spoke about brotherhood and reaching out to other men. And so we know that from a male perspective, it's enabled you both to reach out to other men who have either experienced it or as a support. But we also know that both of you have wives. Both of you are husbands. And we know that even listening to this, there may be men out there who are experiencing this. There may be wives listening that are wondering how you can support your husbands, whether it's through going through testings or whether it's going through a diagnosis. And we want to give you both the opportunity just to share a male's perspective for the women that may be wanting to hear and wanting to understand what is it like and how can they support. If you could both just share a little bit to just enlighten the women as well on this.
In terms of the women, because we know it's male prostate is a male thing that you're going to have to go through. So in terms of my wife, she was there supporting me. Always ask me, "Are you okay? How are you feeling?" So giving me the opportunity to let my feelings go. As below, you don't always want to do that, but there are times when you are more emotional, especially if you're reminded of things. So it was kind of difficult. I understand a lot of people who've got their other half who were trying to support them. It really is about listening and being that ear, the ear for people. So giving people the opportunity, if they want to take it, to speak is the key. You don't have to get them to speak or get me to speak unless that's something that they want to do. But having that opportunity to was good. But also, you can get that hug where you're just lying in bed and just do the things which are relaxed. Take away any other stressful situations which might show themselves is another key. Allow that person to process this. Give them that space to process what's happening. And it's a strange thing. We say someone be strong for you, because what does that really sort of mean? But I get it a bit more is if you're really anxious for me and you're suffering for me, that's not going to make me feel any better. I'm going to feel like if I'm not here in the future, I'm seeing a picture of you of how you're going to be, and I don't want that picture. I want a picture of you smiling, strong, remembering me and remembering the family.
Just what you could say on behalf of or to the wives that may be listening, knowing that, sometimes women say, we don't know what's going on, don't know how it feels. What would you say on behalf of the men to just encourage and to enlighten the women?
To for the women, for the for the for the women, I don't know what to say. It is very tough. In terms of, as I say, Cleveland's journey, it's gone so far, but when you have actually been diagnosed with cancer and then you have to go through the hormone therapy feels like you've been robbed of your manhood. All your feelings and that lot seems to be completely gone. And so what it does, it takes away all your normal sexual appetite that's absolutely wiped, is gone. And you have to try to rebuild, and it is difficult. And so sometimes with the men, there's a lot of mood swings, because obviously when you're on hormone therapy, there's a lot of mood swings. And so I think the key thing is just being patient. It's not going to be a quick thing that you can resolve. It is just being patient and being there. And for me, it's been grateful that I'm still here. I think during the month of March there were quite a few people in the support group. I think there was about 4 people during March who unfortunately didn't continue in their journey. So you're very grateful, and so again, all I would say to the wives, please be patient, because it is a lot to process. One day you could be really fine and everything's happy, and then the next day you could be very reflective, and depending what kind of follow-up you have to have, because sometimes when I go to the hospital, the reality begins to kick back in again, and so your emotions are sometimes up and down, and so you need a partner who's going to be patient with you and be understanding with you, because it is not an easy journey. Once you've been diagnosed, it's not an easy journey, but together you can get there. And I'm still at the early stages of this journey, because I've had the surgery, but at the end of this month I've got to go back for another checkup to find out where we are, to make sure the cancer is at bay. So again, at the end of the month, your anxiety level starts to go again. It's okay, I've got to go and get checked. What's going to happen? So again, for the wives, I would say please do encourage your husbands or boyfriend or whatever, your partner. The earlier they can get checked is the better it's going to be. And yeah, that's what I was saying.
For Cleve, just a shout out for the men as well.
Yeah, I concur with what Pastor's saying. Is just do it now. Go and get your check. If you know that you're getting up in the middle of the night a lot more frequently than you would normally do, if there's something at the back of your mind, even the fact that you're letting the anxiety play on you for so long, when you could really go and find some answers. So you really need to go. Like I say, the initial examination is not painful whatsoever, and it's the psychological part of it is far more painful than anything that they're going to do within the doctor's office. So I would encourage you to do that. Don't wait. Don't think about it too much. I mean, you make an appointment today, tomorrow, and just go get it done, get it sorted, get it checked. That's what my encouragement will be to you. And like they say that There are lots of people out there who are here to support you now. So we're here to support you. There's lots of Men Against Cancer, lots of different organisations who are out there, and your experience can be a lot better than when you do it on your own and try and do this on your own.
Thank you. And like we said at the beginning, 1 in 4 black men are diagnosed with prostate cancer. So this is something that is particularly affecting our community. So dads, brothers, uncles, nephews, granddad, go and get checked because we don't want to lose you. Thank you, Brother Cleveland, for sharing your story. Thank you, Dad, for sharing your story, and for Dr. Amanda joining us again. It's been a real sensitive topic, but I'm glad that we are finally able to talk about these things because there is no shame. Like we said, we need our men, we need our brothers, we need our dads, our granddads, we need you guys in this community. So it's really important that we start talking about these things, getting checked, staying healthy. And thank you for another session of Restoration Talks. Till we meet again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.